This is Stu Peters. He supports the German government in the 1940s and 30s. It's absolutely insane. I want to talk about him because he did this whole bit about Germany in the 30s and how much he loved it and how much of a hero the leader was and stuff. Trying to use veiled language here. Anyway, I want to listen to what he has to say. It's psychotic. This is not part one. If you didn't see the other, don't sweat it. Sins independently of the rest. I'll give context if it's missing. This is why I cover him.
Yeah, I don't know how these people get. I mean, they said that I was a Holocaust denier, which is
I mean, that we just listened to a bunch of that.
completely false, emphatically false. As a matter of fact, they made up a quote out of whole cloth and said, Stu Peters said, quote, Hitler is a hero.
That's what he said. Actually, he said Hitler was doing acts of heroism or something to that effect. I don't think anybody said, quote, Hitler is a hero. But if they did, then, you know what? Sue them. If you feel that way, sue them for defamation, for slander, for libel, whatever. Do what you can to repair your reputation if you really don't believe that Hitler was a hero. That's the thing. He does believe that, and he knows he believes that, and he knows that he said that too. These people do not live in fear of a lawsuit. I certainly don't. I'm just listening to the dude's words.
This was the climate, the atmosphere of complete and total perversion that really led to the National Socialists and Adolf Hitler being swept into power because they promised a return to order.
What the Nazis did? A return to order. Actually, you know what the Nazis promised? A return to their glorious past. They said, make Germany great again. I'm not joking. I'm quoting that. Make Germany great again. Like it was during World War I under Wilhelm II, Emperor Wilhelm II. That is what the Nazis ran on. So did they make Germany great again? Well, I can confidently say that no, they did not. They kind of destroyed the country. And by the end of it, Hitler was losing, and he knew he was going to lose. And he called up regular people who were not trained by the military or anything. He called just normal citizens to take up arms and fight the Russians on the eastern side. And he ordered his generals to torch the land, just burn it all, destroy it, so that the Russians couldn't live off the land while they were coming in. And the generals said, they have supply lines, the Russians do, and the Americans. They have supply lines, and they don't need our land. They're not trying to grow crops. So you're literally like, by doing that, we would just be hurting Germans who were fighting them. And Hitler said, okay, do it anyway. Scorched earth. He didn't give a shit. He said, when I'm dead, it's not going to matter, effectively. It won't matter what happens. Dude was monstrously evil. One forgotten victim of Hitler's is the Germans. People think about how absolutely screwed over the United Kingdom was, and France and Russia and everybody else, but they don't think about the Germans who were innocent in this, didn't want this, tried to resist Hitler, and were completely destroyed by what he was doing.
They promised a return to basic reality in a time of human decency. And so, of course, millions of Germans supported them.
This is an element of fascism, a call back to a mythical past, and complain about degeneracy, degenerate art and stuff, as like the whole bit.
They were looking to do anything that they could do to take back control of their country, to protect themselves and the generations to come. These people were pushed to their breaking point, and
The Nazis were pushed to their breaking point, is what you're telling me? You could say the same about Trump supporters. They're very analogous today. Trump supporters were, quote-unquote, pushed to their breaking point also. And that's why they did January 6th. Were they right to do that? No, of course they weren't. What is wrong with you?
Broke. And one of the first remedies that Hitler and the National Socialists had to offer, one of the quickest ways that they knew to rid the public square of the perverted filth that was corrupting and destroying their country, was to smash up the Institute of Sexual Research and other places like it.
Right, as we read a minute ago.
Storm perverted libraries, perverted bookstores, and burn all of their transgender manuals, all of their disgusting literature on leading homosexual lifestyles, on having with children and animals.
That did not exist. That was illegal. He's just making this up and trying to make you and trying to make you hate gay and trans people more. This is just a fabrication.
And anything else that you could imagine, and probably some things that you can't even imagine. They did exactly what reasonable people would do if given the opportunity.
To like what? To kill people? To burn things to the ground? What are you talking about, bro?
When it comes down to the old Nazi book burnings, as they call them, it was justified.
It was not justified. And here's the real issue. My problem with book burnings is not that, like, those books are important or valuable or contain valuable information. There are, like, thousands of books that were burned, and there were probably some in there that I don't like or wouldn't agree with, I imagine. Out of 30,000, probably, right? Or 20,000, however many it was. The point is the destruction of information like that. The point is stifling free speech, destroying people's ability to speak their mind, silencing them. That's the problem. This guy is not pro-free speech. He's not. Never was. He pretends he's small government, pro-First Amendment and all that. He's not.
It was great. It was awesome. Period. Point blank. They went straight to the perverts. They went straight at the perverts.
I don't know what he's talking about here. This is just, like, fictitious. By the way, if you guys can, like, watch to the end of the video, it'd be really appreciated. That's how YouTube judges if a video should go further, is based on watch time.
They went straight to the purveyors of transgenderism and homosexuality, and they took their works and they set fire to them so they could not be used to destroy anyone else.
That's true, they did. No one was destroying anybody else. They were just living their lives.
To destroy any more children.
No children were harmed in the production of any of this stuff.
And they didn't just stop at book burnings. No, they rounded up the freaks like Magnus Hirschfeld.
Jesus Christ, dude. No, Hirschfeld was not rounded up. They did round up people like him, though, I suppose, sure.
They stripped them of their citizenship. They sent them packing. Hirschfeld himself fled to France, another country that was going through rapid and disgusting social changes at the time, and he finally died in 1935. He isn't missed. But his legacy of perversion is still being felt to this day. Others, mostly Jews, picked up the mantle of Magnus Hirschfeld, and they've carried it into the United States, into the Western world. They're doing
the mantle of Hirschfeld. So what's this mantle that, like, people are allowed to live their lives the way they want to? Is that what he's complaining about right now?
Everything they can to make it mainstream. They're doing everything that they can to make us surrender to this degeneracy.
Who is they? And what degeneracy? Just people living their lives?
To turn our countries into modern-day Weimar republics.
That would be fantastic. Unfortunately, we're not far left enough for that.
The same attacks that the Germans were facing in the 1920s and the 1930s, we are right now facing today. As we speak, our kids are walking into what can only be described as a spiritual battlefield every single day when they get on that bus and they go to school.
Okay.
They're surrounded by sex-obsessed freak shows and perverts who would like nothing more than to expose them to the works of Magnus Hirschfeld and others.
But they're not. Kids are not exposed to any of this stuff. What are you talking about? You're no more exposed to, like, the ideas of Magnus Hirschfeld in school today than you were when I was in school or when Stu Peters was in school. This whole thing is manufactured outrage to infuriate people and make them do something to, like, hurt the LGBT community, whatever they can do. It's disgusting shit, seriously.
Disgusting freaks like him. Only now, it's even worse. Because these same types of materials, transgender training manuals, books about children having with grown men, now
like, this is all made up.
Number in the thousands. They're everywhere. It's even worse than 1933. Because now they're online. They're on your smartphone. They're on your tablets. They're in your kids' classrooms. They're in physical form. They're openly available in school libraries.
I understand what he's trying to communicate is that gay people are trying to, like, take advantage of children, and they're doing that by, like, putting books about taking advantage of children in libraries and stuff. This is just, like, made up. Nobody wants children to be taken advantage of. I certainly do not want that. Nobody that I personally know wants that, or admits to it. Statistically, I suppose we all probably know, 5% like of our friend group is probably like that. But nobody wants that. This whole thing is all about outrage, infuriating people as much as he can, and disgusting people.
Classroom bookshelves, with the total backing of not just the teachers and the libraries directly peddling them to kids, but of the entire Department of Education.
No one is directly peddling anything to kids or whatever, except for Christianity, I suppose. I'm German, so this topic is personal. A great-grandparent wrote propaganda for Der Stürmer. It's a mark of shame to think this still exists. Wow, that's fascinating. Well, you know what they say, never ask a German company what it was doing in 1935, or in the 1930s generally, because it probably wasn't good. At a certain point, it was a requirement to support all of this. There's nothing that you could do about it.
Even the so-called president of the United States, who, let's not forget, partied with bare-chested on the White House lawn.
Sorry for the language. I will cut that out later. Just know that Stu Peters is an absolutely disgusting individual. What he's complaining about here, like Biden partying with trans people that are naked on the White House lawn, like that is obviously completely misrepresenting everything. I mean, there's like a grain of truth to everything that he's saying, mostly kind of a little bit. And that's what makes this propaganda. Usually, it should be 90% truth, 10% propaganda, because you still want to entertain people and you still want to be believed by general society, broader society. It's a difference between having long arms or long legs. If you have long arms, then you can completely encompass somebody in nonsense, lie to them to their face, and get them to believe absolutely anything. Long legs means you provide just a little bit of propaganda in with what you say, just a few lies here or there, and it spreads a lot further. So it's kind of the difference between 90% lies, 10% truth, and 10% lies, 90% truth. Goebbels, the propaganda minister, tended to go for long legs rather than long arms. So 90% truth, 10% lies. What Stu Peters is doing here is long arms. He says that the government was controlled by Jews. There were 4 Jews in government out of 500 something. So yeah, there were Jews in government, I guess, but that's just like not true. He says Biden partied on the White House lawn with trans people. Not really. Again, this is like an example of something that's got a grain of truth to it, but almost entirely false beyond that.
We are facing Weimar conditions in this country. We're reaching a point where these conditions must be met with Weimar solutions.
Okay. Is he saying that he wants a second Holocaust of gay people?
In 21st century America, book burning needs to make a comeback. In fact, at the upcoming Extreme Accountability Tour, I encourage massive book burnings of filth.
Yeah, he tried to hold that event, Maximum Accountability or whatever. What he means when he says that is hanging. He means he wants to hang people. I mean, his words, not mine. And he had a lot of trouble finding a venue for this.
Modern day Americans should be having gatherings where they bring out a big burn barrel and everyone shows up and fills it with this perverted, demented, with these perverted books that are being peddled to our kids at school.
This is not happening. Again, 90% lies, 10% truth.
They should all be torched.
What should be torched? The people or the books? This type of ambiguity is very intentional on Stu's part.
All be destroyed. We're in desperate need of a public societal cleansing ceremony. Thousands of them in every town across America. It'll be beautiful. It'll send a powerful message setting fire to all of the filth that we can muster up, all of the filth that we can strip from the shelves and throw in the burn barrel, throw into a massive bonfire stacked 100 feet tall. The more the better, the more the merrier. And this book burning, it won't just be for show. No, it'll be a part of the maximum accountability, the extreme accountability that we will bring to these perverts. We will burn their books. We'll burn their ideas to the ground, and then we'll put them on trial, and they'll be held accountable for their assaults on humanity and their rape and murder of childhood innocence.
This is absolutely psychotic stuff. Seriously. The reason I'm talking about him in the first place is because he's extremely influential. He's gigantic. He's huge. Really. millions and millions of followers. Maybe as big as Alex Jones, bigger in some areas, I don't know. But it needs to be discussed. It needs to be hit. And I'm kind of sick of him claiming that he doesn't support Hitler or whatever other thing.
They'll be held accountable for all of it.
I guess gay people.
No quarter for parasites. Maximum accountability. Extreme accountability is the only remedy here.
That means killing them.
Kill it with fire.
See?
Peter Quinones is the host of the Peter Quinones Show, and he joins us now to discuss this further. Thank you so much for joining us. Do you agree?
I want to start by disagreeing with you.
Sure.
I think those books
Okay, that's surprising.
should be burned, but you should keep one copy and put them away so that in the future, when the people who did this pay for it, and then future generations look back and go, why did you do that? You can go, here, this is why we did it. One of the problems with the book burnings of the National Socialists in Germany was much of it was lost. So you can't point to the fact, okay, well, what did these papers look like in Dr. Hirschfeld's gay sex brothel?
Brothel. Okay, that's not what it was. It was just an institute. It was like a university, basically. And this guy is literally right now saying we don't have any idea what was in those books because they were burned. So we can't say if they were bad. We have no clue. Then how can you possibly complain about it and make all these ridiculous claims about the books being like a danger to society and stuff if you don't even know what they said?
Which it was described as his Institute for Sexology in the book Voluptuous Panic by Mel Gordon.
Okay, I don't know who that is or why I would trust it or whatever, but it wasn't like a gay brothel.
It's described as essentially a gay sex brothel. I mean, it was just a center for degeneracy.
No, it was an institute for studying things.
They burned those books. We don't know what was in there. LGBTQ plus activists complained that they were burned, that it set back that science decades.
It did. Yep, absolutely.
Even a century. We need to keep a little bit of it around just so that when the future generations go, why did you punish these people so for doing this? You can go, here, look at this. This is why. And hopefully we haven't gotten to a point in our civilization at that time where they look at those books and they go, oh, those were tame.
Yeah, we had a young boy on the program who stood up to
Oh, here we go.
a school board and told his dad, no, I want to go there and I want to speak, because if I'm not going to speak, and I shouldn't even have to speak, I can't believe that I even have to address this. But here is an 11-year-old boy going before his school board and reading aloud the book that the librarian pushed on him.
This is really sad. This kid is so propagandized. You shouldn't destroy information, period. That's just what it is. And librarians are not pushing books on people like that, quote unquote. These nutcases are doing everything they can to get books banned. Large, sweeping bans that take out like a ton of books that are not controversial. They're just regular books. They may have a gay character in them, and that's it, as far as it goes. And people like Stu Peters pick out specific books that may or may not even be in the library that have like a scene that contextually, added something to the plot that when taken out of context is like, it sounds bad. These librarians commonly have this little banned books section up by the front desk. You could just like look at all the books that are banned there or whatever. And I guess in Stu Peters' mind, that's pushing these books, these degenerate books on children. It's just lies all the way down. Lies, lies, lies.
Well, I would say tribunals. If you are going to look to...
How do we deal with it? Tribunals. So he wants to like create a military tribunal and kill anybody that disagrees with him on this.
The past, and you are going to say people did certain things to sections of humanity and they need to suffer for it. Well, we need to learn from history. Isn't that what they tell us to do? To learn from history, look back in history and see these horrible things that were done. We can't allow these horrible things to be done again. Well, these horrible things are being repeated from 1920s Weimar and early 1930s.
Let's get down to brass tacks here. And this is going to maybe be a very uncomfortable question for me
Here we go.
to answer, but I want to put all of the aside. It was war. Horrific things happened. Lots of people died. It was World War II. I don't believe that World War II happened as a result of the Holocaust. I don't believe
Okay.
That was the reason for the war. And I'm asking a lot of questions about that.
You can ask questions, and I guess it kind of depends on what you mean by that. The Holocaust, I guess that is the whole destruction by fire. I think is what those that is what that word means technically. I guess when people say Holocaust, what they mean is the extermination of of Jews. I agree that that was not the thing that caused people to like fight against Hitler in World War II. I actually I used to think that nobody even gave a shit about that, but in my personal opinion, I believe that people actually did care about what was happening to Jews in large part. But the reason that this whole thing happened was not to save Jews. It was not because of the Holocaust. It was because Germany had worldwide ambitions to take over the entirety of Europe and Asia. And he took out the militaries of France and the entire, region there, and also was hitting England. And then he came at Russia, creating a two-front war. That was really stupid of him. So people got involved because he had taken over their countries, not because of what he was doing to Jews. But that was, another part of this that was just disgusting and horrific and wrong.
People don't like when I ask a lot of questions about that.
No, go nuts. Ask away.
Hitler may have been an evil dictator.
Like, I don't have a problem with the questions he's asking. I'm sorry. Like, I don't have a problem with the fact that he's asking questions, but that's the problem. He's not asking questions. He's making statements, and they're false statements.
Person that murdered millions of people. I don't know because of the propaganda that surrounds every war. But
oh, please read people's diary entries.
For this, wasn't he a hero? Wasn't Hitler doing the right thing when he ordered these books to be burned and these places to be stormed by force?
There you go. He says, I never said that Hitler was a hero. Remember? I never said Hitler was a hero.
Radically false. As a matter of fact, they made up a quote out of whole cloth and said, Stu Peters said, quote, Hitler is a hero. I have never said any such thing. And they can print this stuff with impunity because the hubris is so, because there's no accountability.
Yep. So one more time, you didn't say Hitler was a hero, you say?
Ask a lot of questions about that. Hitler may have been an evil dictator, a ruthless person that murdered millions of people. I don't know because of the propaganda that surrounds every war. But for this, wasn't he a hero? Wasn't Hitler doing the right thing when he ordered these books to be burned and these places?
Is this not him saying that Hitler was a hero? How else am I supposed to take this?
Just to be stormed by force?
Well, even if he didn't order it, at least the people that followed him knew what to do, and he wasn't going to complain about it.
A lot of things that happened in World War II, Hitler kind of set the culture, and his brown shirts just followed through with what they believed he wanted. But he did issue a lot of orders. I wonder, I haven't really found a good answer to this. Did Hitler ever personally himself kill anybody, or was it all just he ordered others to do it? He was in World War I, but he was a courier in World War I. I don't know. I'm super curious about that. If he ever actually got his hands dirty in that way, other than the one guy, that we know he killed, which is himself.
Yeah, this is what needed to be done. If you're going to save a civilization, I mean, the civilization was dying. This was the Prussian Empire was something that was emulated by.
Prussian Empire is a region in the Germany area that at the time I believe was a German state. It was previously its own individual empire, and it had its own culture and everything. I believe Prussia is no longer part of Germany anymore. I don't remember now. I looked it up recently. But they had their own culture here. So he's talking about.
Russian Empire was something that was emulated by countries all over the world. The United States adopted their education system for better, for worse.
I don't believe a single word out of these people's mouths, even trivial stuff. Don't believe even one thing they say. Look it up yourself.
People looked at their army, people looked at their military, and they modeled their military after their military.
Why are we talking about Prussia?
And it was reduced to 42nd Street in the 1970s, where every perversion was available. The German people were embarrassed to be German. They were the Prussian people. The Prussian spirit was lost, Anything that needed to be done to stop what was happening needed to be done.
People were not embarrassed to be German. That was kind of the problem. People were obsessed with the fact that they were German and insisted that they deserved to own the world and all of that other stuff. That's what caused it.
People complain, oh, when Hitler came to power, he made it illegal. All the National Socialists were the only political party that was legal after that. Well,
Avalono Babylon says, I looked it up. He was in combat during World War I. However, there's no evidence he ever killed anyone himself personally afterward. Super interesting. I guess I'm going to take that as he always ordered the killings rather than doing it himself. Doesn't make it any better. I just thought that it was an interesting distinction.
all the National Socialists were the only political party that was legal after that. Well, desperate times, desperate measures.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus, dude.
You have to do that. If you think that the only way to solve the problem is to put your country back on the right path, to put your culture back on the right path, your community back on the right path, you're going to do anything that it takes.
So he says desperate times, desperate measures. Desperate times justified Hitler's destruction of democracy and installation of a dictatorship. That's justified in this dude's mind. This is insane.
Suspending the rule of law, I have no problem with that. That's exactly what Bukele did in El Salvador when he had the murder capital of the world. He suspended the rule of law, arrested tens of thousands of people, and made his country the safest country in the Western Hemisphere.
Holy shit, bro. Think about what you're saying right now. Think about who and what Stu Peters is platforming by, like, talking to this guy and talking about all this stuff. This is nuts. They are not just like, what's the word I'm looking for? They're not just revising the Holocaust. They're not revisionists. They are full-blown deniers here. This is just wild.
In the span of 4 years,
you
do what needs to be done.
It's almost a criminal offense to be a Russian sympathizer if it's not a criminal offense. I don't know.
I'm not sure what that means.
Yeah, if I go over to interview Vladimir Putin, I mean, look what happened to Tucker. He's being...
No, go nuts. Interview anybody that you want. It's you claiming that Russia is better than America and running propaganda for them and all this other stuff that I have a problem with. But you're free to do whatever because I believe in free speech. See how that works?
Sanctioned in the EU. I mean, people are calling for him to hang for treason. I don't know exactly what's going on there. But this is...
No one is calling for Tucker to hang for treason. Who said that? We've all just acknowledged that he's a Russian asset. Why does this guy's mind always go to violence? Every time. And apparently he thinks that everyone's mind goes to violence.
The exact same reason why you can't ask questions about Hitler. It's why you can't look into history. It's why you can't...
But you can.
Talk about him. And if you do, you're a sympathizer to Nazis, right?
No.
Because, of course, Vladimir Putin protects the interests of his people and protects children there by ridding his country of this pornographic filth. And that has to be destroyed for the same reason the real truth about Hitler has to be destroyed. And that's because the goal here, the benchmark for success, is when these vile, disgusting creatures have legal, unfettered sexual access to children. That's...
Nobody wants that. Nobody. Like it's statistically like 5%, but nobody accepts that. Certainly not in the gay community, the trans community. No one wants that. You're not somebody who takes advantage of kids simply because you're gay. That is psychotic.
What they want, right?
No, not right.
It all comes down to the children. Even if you go back to a historic figure like Martin Luther said, give me a child before they're 4 years old and I will own their mind for life.
Okay, I don't know that's true. I've heard that saying. I don't think that was Martin Luther. Maybe. Anyway, this whole bit about gay people taking advantage of kids and complaining about that, this is actually also Nazi propaganda. In fact, anytime Hitler didn't like somebody, he accused them of taking advantage of kids, like the Catholic Church, for example. That may have been true for the Catholics, I don't know, but he selectively chose to target specific groups if he didn't like them, or if they caused him problems or whatever. He targeted them and claimed they were taking advantage of kids. And that's because pretty much everybody can agree that taking advantage of kids is wrong. Nobody wants that to happen. Nobody should. So if you can get people on board with that idea. All you have to do is convince them that this is happening on a widespread scale in the gay community, and boom, you're done. You've got people that are anti-gay now. Just propaganda again.
And that's why you see them pushing free, not only kindergarten but pre-K. They want to control your child's mind right from the start.
Somebody's pushing free kindergarten and pre-K. I mean, yeah, that'd be great. Less childcare cost, right?
It's the goal of any, it's called Bolshevik, totalitarian, authoritarian regime.
Dude, I love this. He's saying that the Bolsheviks, the communists, were totalitarian and authoritarian, and he's complaining about that. But in the same breath, he says the Nazis were fantastic and we should go with them. Are you kidding me? The defining quality of fascism in Italy was that they were totalitarian, quote unquote. That's where that word came from. The oppositional party to the fascist party in Italy was pointing out that they are totalitarian. They have total control over people's lives.
I don't, technically, totalitarian and authoritarian, I think, are two completely different things. I think that Hitler went completely authoritarian, and he had to.
Okay.
There was no other way to solve the problem that was there. But yes, it's always been all about the children, especially when you look at the progressive worldview, which comes right out of every kind of dictatorial totalitarian mindset.
These people are praising a dictator while complaining that gay people want a dictator?
The generations that are alive now are basically lost. It's going to be hard to change their minds. We have to get the next generation. We have to get every subsequent generation after that.
You're hearing what he's saying, right? He's complaining that the LGBT community is trying to get free pre-K so they have their minds. And he's saying we need to do that instead. Is it wrong to try to brainwash people or not? The answer is yes, it is wrong to brainwash people. And no, gay people or whatever are not brainwashing people or kids or whatever. That's just made up.
That's why they want the children. There is a perverted aspect to this where, my friend Owen McIntyre has this thing where he says it's very simple. They just want to diddle kids. And that's a part of it. They just want...
Again, age-old propaganda against the LGBT community.
There's a sexual attraction to children that these perverts have that's unthinkable to normal people, but there's something about it. There's something there, and it's always about the children. When you look any...
Oh my God, yes, you said that 13 times.
...movement, you look, they aim it at the children because they know, anybody who's raised children knows that if you don't get your values into that child as soon as possible, they can be led astray in any direction by somebody who considers their values to be more valuable than yours.
Or we could just not brainwash children. That's an option too, right?
This is what I mean when I say that we don't need any more presidential candidates. We need another William Wallace. I think a full authoritarian takeover of this country is the only way that we're going to say it.
Okay. Full authoritarian takeover of the United States. The only way to save it. Again, dude is gigantic, okay? He's got like millions of followers on Telegram and Rumble and everything else. And he's got his own podcast. It's huge. He's not a nobody. We need to address this dude.
That and repentance, of course. And turning to Jesus Christ. Do you agree?
This dude is talking about Jesus while he's slandering people and talking about hating this group and wishing they were dead and everything. Okay, wow.
With that?
Yeah, more and more the idea of a Christian Caesar, people call it a red Caesar. My friend says it'll be a purple Caesar.
I say...
What is a red Caesar? Does that mean like a Republican?
I say William Wallace only because I want to see people on horseback storming these school libraries and collecting these books and the people who push them.
Well, as Curtis Yarvin said in 2007, until we see tanks on Harvard Yard, we won't know that any progress is being made in this country.
Jesus Christ. They are calling for the death penalty for people. Just go up, roll up on your horse or whatever and take these people out. That is insane.
I couldn't agree more. Peter Quinones,
Knock me over with a feather. He couldn't agree more.
will you please come back and spend some more time with us at another time? I respect and value your opinion, and I think you have some really, really great insight that is refreshing for our viewers to hear. We'd like to have you back again soon.
Anytime. I appreciate it.
So there you go. There is Stu Peters advocating for the death of the Jewish community, basically, and the LGBT community. I don't know how it gets clearer. He said Hitler's a hero, right? This is nuts. He says he wants a Christian Caesar. He says that because saying he wants another Hitler is too distasteful to modern society, usually. But it's effectively the same message. Jesus, dude. Tell me what you think about it in the comments. That's just crazy.